The Caged. In the heart of Lagos, Nigeria, there was a mysterious house that stood tall amidst the bustling city. The house was surrounded by a high fence with iron bars that seemed to stretch up to the sky. The locals called it the Caged because of its eerie appearance and the strange stories that surrounded it. Many believed that the house was haunted by evil spirits, while others thought it was a secret hideout for ritualists. But one person, a young and fearless journalist named Neoma, was determined to uncover the truth behind the caged. She had always been fascinated by the mysterious house and was convinced that there are more to it than meets the eyes. Neoma spent weeks researching and gathering information, talking to locals, and trying to find anyone who had ever been inside the house. One day, Neoma received a cryptic message from an unknown number inviting her to meet at the caged. The message read, "Come along, come at night, and come prepared." Norma was both scared and thrilled at the prospect of finally uncovering the secret of the caged. She arrived at the house just before midnight, her heart racing with anticipation. As she approached the gate, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was a woman, tall and gaunt, with eyes that seemed to bore into Norma's soul. The woman introduced herself as Aisha, the caretaker of the caged. Aisha led Neoma through the gate and into the house, where she found herself a dark corridors and dimly lit rooms. As they walked deeper into the house, Neoma began to notice strange symbols etched into the walls. They seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy, and Nneoma couldn't shake the feeling that she was being led into a trap. Aisha seemed to sense her unease, and her eyes glinted with a sinister light. Suddenly, Aisha stopped in front of a door that seemed to lead to a cellar. She turned to Norma and whispered, "This is where the truth lies. Are you prepared to face it?" Norma stilled herself and nodded, and Aisha opened the door, revealing a set of steep stairs that led down into darkness. As Norma descended the stairs, she heard the sound of whispers and footsteps echoing off the walls. She fumbled for her phone to turn on the flashlight, but it was dead. Suddenly, the light flickered on, revealing a room filled with cages, each one containing a person. Hmm. Norma's eyes widened in horror as she realized that the cage was a secret prison where people were being held captive. Aisha appeared beside her, a cruel smile spreading across her face. "Welcome to the caged," she said. "You will be staying here for a while." And with that, Norma was dragged away, thrown into one of the cages, and left to face the darkness alone. Norma was trapped with no clear way out. She was surrounded by the air silence of the cellar, the only sound being the faint whispering of other captives. She knew she had to think fast or risk being trapped forever. As she looked around the cage, Norma noticed that the lock was old and rusted. She remembered a trick she had learned from a friend, a journalist who had been imprisoned and had managed to escape. The trick involved using a thin object to pick the lock. Norma searched her pockets and found a hairpin that she had forgotten was there. She began to work on the lock, using the hairpin to manipulate the mechanism. It was slow going, but she was determined to escape. As she walked, Norma heard the sound of footsteps coming from the stairs. Aisha was returning, and Norma knew she had to walk fast. She concentrated all her energy on the lock, using every ounce of skill and determination she possessed. Finally, after what seemed like eternity, the lock clicked open. Norma pushed the door of the cage open and stepped out, her heart racing with excitement. She knew she had to move fast before Aisha discovered that she had escaped. Norma looked around, talking in the layout of the cellar. She spotted a door at the far end. She looked at it. Might she looked at it might lead to freedom. She began to run, her feet pounding the cold concrete floor. As she reached the door, Neoma heard Aisha's voice behind her, shouting and cursing. She knew she had to keep moving or risk being caught again. She pushed the door open and found herself in a narrow alleyway, the bright sunlight dazzling her eyes. Norma took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of the sun on her skin. She knew she was free, at least for the moment. She began to run, her feet pounding the pavement as she disappeared into the crowded city of Lagos. Norma didn't stop until she was sure she had left the cage and its sinister occupant far behind. She finally slowed to a stop in front of a small cafe where she collapsed onto a chair, exhausted. As she caught her breath, Norma knew she had to act fast to rescue the other captives and bring Aisha to justice. She pulled out her phone and dialed the number of her friend, Inspector Ahmed, a detective with the Lagos police. Inspector Ahmed answered on the first ring, and Norma quickly filed him in on her ordeal. He listened intently, her anger growing with each passing moment. "We will get Aisha and free the others," he promised. "But first, we need to get you to a safe place," he said. Norma agreed, and Inspector Ahmed sent a team of officers to escort her to a secure location. Meanwhile, he assembled a team of detectives to raid the cage and rescue the captives. The raid was a success. Aisha was arrested and the captives were freed. As it turned out, Aisha was the leader of the human trafficking ring, and the cage was one of her secret prisons. The police found evidence of her crimes, including records of the captives and the buyer who had purchased them. Aisha was charged with multiple counts of kidnapping, human trafficking, and attempted murder. She was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. The captives, including those who had been held in the cage, were reunited with their families and received counseling and support to help them recover from their ordeal. Neoma, who had risked her life to expose Aisha's crime, was hailed as a hero. She continued to work as a journalist, using her platform to raise awareness about human trafficking and advocate for the rights of victims. The cage was demolished and a memorial was built in its place to honor the victim of human trafficking. The site became a symbol of hope and resilience, a reminder that even in the darkest of places, there's always the. Hope you enjoyed the stories. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more interesting stories.